The opinions expressed on this program represent the viewpoints of individual authors or contributors and do not necessarily reflect those of Troy University. This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, I'm very excited tonight to have as my guest I've known him all of his life. He's one of the outstanding jurists and political figures in Alabama, Judge Ben Bowden. Folks, we were talking before the show. I've known Ben's parents. They're some of my best friends, and Miss Sarah Lawrence and Sarah Bowden were in Brundage, and his mom and daddy. I tell people that Ben's mom and daddy, Lawrence and Sarah Bowden, were Republican before it was cool. They were one of the top 10, 12, maybe 12 families in Pike County that were Republican. And I think Lawrence dutifully was chairman of the Republican Party for about 20 years. I don't know that. But anyway, Ben Bowden was my first legislative page, and I was just sitting there talking to him. Ben will be 59 years old tomorrow. He says that tells you how old you are, Steve, because I am in my 70s, and I was a 30-year-old freshman legislator. And I would take the most outstanding kids in my county to be pages, and he was my very, very first page. There were two outstanding young men, and I think one of them became a preacher. Riley Green, whose daddy was circuit judge in Troy. He was an outstanding young leader in high school, and Ben was the most outstanding high school leader in Brundage. I'd watched him grow up, and he was an Eagle Scout and everything. But anyway, they were my first pages. Ben, I didn't tell so much of your time, but Ben Bowden, he gravitated over to Covington County and became probate judge over there, and then he became a circuit judge after that. And Governor Ivey just appointed him to take the vacancy of Bill Lewis vacated on the Court of Civil Appeals. Bill took a quick move up the ladder, didn't he?
He did. I saw Bill not too long ago, and I said, in a year, Judge Lewis, I'm going to come to you and say, okay, what was the best job? Circuit judge up in Autauga, or was it being on the Court of Civil Appeals, or was it being on the Alabama Supreme Court, or is it being a judge on the Federal District Court? I want to know which one's the best job, and he can tell us because he's certainly done them all.
He has, and within a year's time, I met with Bill. He knew Senator Shelby and I were real good friends, and he came to me about 7 or 8 years ago, and he told me that his aspiration was to be a federal judge. And I'll digress and tell you this story. You know, my best friend was Keith Watkins.
Oh, yeah.
And Keith and I are exactly the same age.
Judge Keith Watkins.
That's right. And I had him on the show, and he's real active. He's in the seat Judge Frank Johnson was in. But the story behind Keith was, and you'll appreciate this, knowing Pike County, being from there and everything, Shelby and I were Keith's only people he knew in Pike County in 1986 when he was running for the U.S. Senate against Jeremiah Denton, who was an incumbent senator. And but me and Keith offered to help him, and we did. And so Shelby Keith would ask Shelby, I told him when I met him, I said, Shelby, you know, Keith's my best friend. And he said, I didn't know that. You and Keith are the only two people I know in Pike County. Keith had practiced law a little while in Tuscaloosa after law school, but waiting for Terry to graduate from nursing school. Mm-hmm. And so he knew Shelby from practicing law in Tuscaloosa. But anyway, the bottom line is somebody here in Montgomery had asked Keith to recommend to Shelby. Keith knew Shelby. He wanted to be a federal judge. And everybody in Montgomery knew this boy wasn't going to get it, but Keith was friends with him. He was in law school with him. And he called Ann Caldwell and told Ann, says, I want to come talk to Senator Shelby about being a federal, I'm recommending for a federal judgeship in the Middle District. And Shelby called me first that very night. He says, guess what I'm fixing to do? I said, what, Shelby? I'm fixing to make your best friend a federal judge. Well, Keith had a general law practice in Troy. He had never thought about being on the bench. Yeah. He could have gone to a circuit judgeship along the line somewhere, but he had just a total general law practice. And I said, well, okay, Shelby, that's great. And then there was no cell phone. My phone hung up, and Keith called me. I said, he said, guess what? Who just called me? I said, I know. Shelby just called me bragging about he's made you a federal judge. And Keith wasn't going to take it.
Yeah.
He was not going to take it. I said, well, Keith, you can't turn down a federal judgeship. You know, so I caught him. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off that story. Go into your thing. How you go?
Let me just say, while I can publicly, that the Watkins family in general and Keith are fine people from Pike County.
Oh, shoot, yeah.
And, you know, he doesn't go around saying that you were his best friend very much. I just want to warn you about that.
I know that.
I'm just teasing. He would certainly claim you. But Keith has been just a fantastic judge. He's so grounded.
He's probably a mentor to you.
Oh, yeah. I've spent a lot of time with Keith, and he's always glad to see me, and I just can't say enough good about him and what he's doing with the history of the Middle District Court.
He is.
And the big decisions that were made there by Judge Johnson and others. He does a lot of presentations on that, and I'm so grateful that it worked out that your friend got that position, because he is certainly deserving. And not only was he deserving, but he made good on the appointment because he did a fantastic
Everybody
job.
praises Keith's jurisdiction, but they do you too. That's what I want to get into. Let's chart your career. When you left Brundage, was the private school already doing then? You were in the private school, wasn't you? Pike
That's
Liberal.
right. That's
so you
right.
went to Pike Liberal, and then you went to Alabama, undergraduate. What did you
Correct.
major in?
I was a history major, which meant that because I was also in Air Force ROTC.
Did you know you were going to law school? You thought you wanted to?
I wanted to be in the military, and I wanted to go to law school in that order. So I was in the ROTC
So you didn't want to be in
program.
the military before. You thought you might have been a JAG officer, really, didn't you?
Right, that's what I was headed for, but the steps were to go through ROTC and get my commission, which I got. And then I was fortunate enough, really, that the Air Force gave me a delay from going on to active duty and let me go to law school at Alabama. So I spent 3 years at law school in Tuscaloosa, and then when that was over, they called me in then to be a JAG officer in the Air Force.
So you went straight from undergraduate to law school at
Correct.
Alabama.
That's right.
Now, you were Kappa Sig. All those Brundage boys, I bet Don Dick and Ramage were your mentors, weren't they?
Both were. I honestly would say that I wouldn't be where I am today without my first cousin, Don Dickert.
He is your first cousin.
Yeah, and
Through Miss Sarah.
That's right. And also Mayor Jimmy Ramage. He literally, I would not be where I am if it weren't for him.
Now his sons, are they about you? Are they younger than you?
A little bit. John is probably 5 or 6 years younger, maybe a little bit more, and then Jim, I think, is a couple of years younger than me. But John is really making a name for himself out there in the banking world. So
I didn't know you and Dickert were kin. I knew y'all lived in the same neighborhood.
yeah,
And I knew he probably pledged Kappa Sig because of him.
yeah.
There's that vein of Kappa Sig priority all through that area, extending into Barber and Henry County.
Right.
The Henry County prominent people, and like Joe Espy was a Kappa Sig.
He sure was.
And you know, Jimmy Rain and Espy grew up the same age and played ball against each other.
No, I didn't know that.
Espy was a good football player.
Yeah.
In high school. Anyway, back to the Kappa Sig thing. But you went on from Alabama undergraduate, having majored in history, then went to Alabama Law School.
Let me say one other thing that I don't usually talk about very much, but it's okay to talk about today. I ended up as the president of my fraternity.
You were president of Kappa Sig.
And let me tell you, that is a big challenge to be the president of a social fraternity like that at Alabama. And I learned, you think that something like that would be just, having fun with your friends, but it was a real challenge and a growing experience for me to try to manage a group of college young men. And I just wanted to say that was also very formative. And there are a lot of negatives and about fraternities at a big school like Alabama, but I tell you, it's also a great place to grow and learn and how to deal with people.
Well, you also met a lot of people who are in state politics through there.
Yeah.
When I was going to Alabama, being a fraternity and being in a machine fraternity was like the only route to go into politics.
Yeah.
The entire congressional delegation when I was a young boy growing up in Troy, we had 8 or 9 congressmen. All of them had the same modus operandi. They'd gone to Alabama to undergraduate school, been in a fraternity, came back home to a small town or middle-sized town and practiced law, then went to Congress. They had the same route. Which brings me to this. Now, you married a Pike County girl.
Yes, I did. I was so fortunate that
Did
she
y'all
said-
date in high school?
We did.
Are
She's
y'all the same age about?
she's 1 year younger than I am.
Now, tell us about your wife.
Angie Mobley.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well
and-
known Brundage family.
Yeah, and you know what's so interesting about the small town Brundage is that my mother, who was a school teacher, taught Angie's daddy, and so it's just these people you've known all your life, but I didn't know her really until we got into high school, and you know she took a chance on me, and her family, her mother was a black from.
Yeah, I know Tarentum.
Yeah,
The black, J.K. Black was one of my best friends.
Yeah.
That's our uncle.
uncle.
J.K. Black was the most prominent man in Tarentum.
Yeah.
He had the most beautiful black Angus cattle.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We'd go out there and look at them when I'd go to his store down there.
The black family owned all that land when you hit that really harsh curb headed towards out towards sort of Enterprise, and down that way. They owned all that land back
I
in
knew
there.
they did.
And but it's,
He was a humble man, though.
Yeah.
He was. You know, when I started in politics in that county, in Pike County, there were the old probate judge Ben Reeves and Gardner Bassett had a machine, and the most prominent men in each locale were in that group. And J.K. Black was one of them. They sent me to him the first day, and J.K. and I became good friends all throughout my political career.
well, he was a good one to have. Not only he was influential, but a good man too.
So her maiden name was Mobley, not Black.
Right, her mother
mama
was a black, yeah.
Now, but would y'all marry before law school or after law school?
at the last year of law school. And then she went with me when we went in the Air Force. And my first assignment in the Air
So
Force.
you went in the Air Force after law school.
Correct.
To be a JAG officer.
Right.
Now, where were you located?
We went to a place that's now no longer in the hands of the U.S. because they closed the base, but we went to Bitburg Air Base in Germany. And it was such a funny kind of thing. Two kids from, rural.
Had y'all had children yet?
No. Two kids from rural South Alabama showing up in Germany. But again, just an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything, Steve, because it was just the two of us. You couldn't get mad and go home to mama and daddy from there. You had to figure it out.
Y'all were newlyweds?
Yeah.
Two of y'all were newlyweds? But y'all had known each other a long time.
Yeah, of course. And it was truly, I hate to be too dramatic about it, but it was a pretty magical experience to be there.
How many
And
years were you over there?
I was there for, I think 18 months, and then that base closed due to one of the rounds of where we shrunk the military, and we had bases all over Europe, so they closed that one. And then we were fortunate to get reassigned to a base down in northern Italy, Aviano Air Base in Italy, and we spent 3 years there.
You were 2 years in Germany and 3 in Italy. Y'all were in Europe for 5 years.
Almost 5 years, yeah.
Then you had served your full time and then went into the Guard. You
Went into the reserves.
reserves, yeah.
Yeah,
You're still in the reserves, aren't you?
I retired 2 years ago.
Okay. How many years did you have in? 20?
5 in active duty and 25 in the reserve.
So you had that long
30,
in?
yeah.
Well, you've got a good military retirement, too.
Yeah.
Ben, let me ask you this question now. When did your children come along?
So my daughter was born in Italy.
Were y'all in Italy?
Yeah, that's always a topic of conversation about the.
What's her name?
Her name is Anna Elizabeth. We call her Anna Beth. And Anna Beth lives in Dallas, Texas, and she's married and living the dream out there. And
Everybody loves to live in Dallas.
if you are a 20-something, 30-something, it's the place to be.
Everybody says that.
Yeah. And then my son was born in the Andalusia Regional Hospital in Andalusia, and he is a lieutenant, which is a captain in my service, but in the Navy, he's an 03 lieutenant, young officer in the Navy stationed at Pensacola Naval Air Station.
Now, what much difference in their ages?
They're about 3.5 years apart.
Now, the daughter's married but not having children yet.
That's right.
But the son's not married yet, is
He
he?
just got married
that's
on
right.
December the 20th. Which, Steve, we've had a big year.
You really have.
I've changed jobs dramatically, and from the circuit bench to the Court of Civil Appeals, and then we've had my investiture, which you came. I was so glad.
Thanks for inviting me. I was so flattered.
Happy to see you there. Everybody wanted to see you and talk to you and say.
My best friends are on the court. Sarah Stewart and Will Sellers and Kelly Wise and a yoke group. Matt Friday, and I love all your group. That's a good group. But you add a lot to it, Ben. You've got a pretty prestigious record. Matter of fact, you may come to that 5-group panel with as high credentials as anybody. And my column today talks about what good job Kay Ivey's done with her judicial appointments. Read my column today that came out today. It's about you, mentions you and Bill Lewis and the most recent Will Parker.
Yeah.
I think it's a good appointment. But back to your thing. Now, you came out of the Guard, out of the military service 5 years and went straight to Andalusia. Did you go to one of the big law firms there, the Albritton firm or somebody?
Yes, I went to the Albritton firm, the oldest firm in the state of Alabama at the time.
Yeah.
And very prestigious.
That was something. They don't have many people in that firm, do they?
Well, the firm doesn't exist anymore.
The boy over there, his daddy was in that firm that's on the ethics commission now. Was he your law partner?
Yes, Tom Albritton.
He your age?
Yes, we went to law school together, and then his brother Hal was a lawyer there as well. And I was so fortunate to get into that law firm, and not just the Albritton lawyers, but District Judge Julie Moody and Bill Alverson and Rick Clifton, who's deceased, all were lawyers there. They're fantastic lawyers. And to transition from doing military law to doing kind of what comes in the door law.
Like Keith was doing in Troy.
Yeah,
same thing.
They helped me so much, all of them. I owe them a debt of gratitude for transitioning me from military law to regular law. And I stayed there 11 years. Hard to believe that.
You went to Albritton firm 11 years doing general practice.
That's right.
So you'd been from like 29 to 40 doing that. When did you become probate judge?
I think I was 38 when I went to probate.
So you got there in about 28 years old, and so 27. At
Right.
5 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's tracking just about right.
So now let me tell you this. I'll say this as an aside. Andalusia has been known that Albritton firm was one. I think it was a Presswood that was a lawyer there too. That may have been Ken those Presswoods in Pike County.
Yeah.
Originally, but the reason I say that, when I was a little boy, we didn't have many murders in Troy, but there was a famous murder trial where some old guy was working at a jewelry store and murdered this old lady for a diamond ring, and the house was over there by where the Troy City Hall is now, Pye Brantley was probably considered the best lawyer in Alabama, one of them. Mm-hmm. So Troy had a very prominent lawyer, but the Albritton firm may have been the ones, but the Andalusia was known then to having the best lawyers in South Alabama, especially for towns the size of Troy and Andalusia and Eufaula and all that. But they would one of the Andalusia lawyers came over and defended him. I mean, he had enough money to get one of the good lawyers. I mean to decide about that, but I always came up with the impression Andalusia had the best lawyers. Andalusia was sort of a highbrow town. You know who were my contemporaries from Andalusia? Oh, Kyle Gant and I played high school football against each other. Didn't Kyle become sheriff at one time? Or his family was somebody.
I don't think Kyle did, but I know Kyle and Susan Gant very well, consider them friends. And just as a side note, Kyle and Susan have a son whose name is Kyle Jr., but his real name is Admiral Gant, and he's an admiral in the Navy, and he's in Japan right now. He was very influential in us working with my son, Sim, to get to the Navy. And
there's a lot of Troy and Pike County Andalusia connections.
Yeah.
When I speak to those civic clubs over there, and I hadn't done it in recent years, but I made a note about this. I would speak to the Kiwanis Club in Andalusia. In most towns, the Rotary Club is bigger than the Kiwanis Club, but in Andalusia, the Kiwanis Club is bigger than the Rotary Club. It's much bigger. Beats that same restaurant.
Yeah, they're very successful. They run maybe their secret is they put on the fair every year.
That's probably what it is.
And so
all those Power South guys in there.
Yeah, we have some too.
Are you in the Rotary?
I'm in Rotary. And
about the same, I guess.
I have to take up for my Rotarians.
I've spoken to Rotary. Rotary.
Yeah, you have. You talked about Big Jim.
I love it. Go back now. Then you became probate judge. In what year?
That was in 2008. It was kind of an unfortunate situation.
And how old were you? About 38, 39?
Let's see. In 2000, I can't make those numbers work out in my head, but
anyway, just don't worry.
Yeah. So anyway, it was an unfortunate situation in that the probate judge we had had to step down, and so the governor had to appoint somebody.
Who was the governor?
Bob Riley.
Okay, so you were having a fun time in the Albritton firm. What made you think you'd be probate judge?
Well, I was actually having a fun time in Balad, Iraq. I was deployed.
You were over in Iraq.
When it happened, and my law partner, Judge Julie Moody, she was able to get a phone call. We were able to talk on the phone, and we talked it over when it happened. And I said, "Yeah, I want to do it," and prayed about it a lot because my practice was going well. And
Are you still in the Methodist Church? You grew up in the First Methodist of Brundage, didn't you?
That's right.
You're still in the First Methodist Church in Andalusia now?
That's right.
Makes sense.
We a great group of people at that church. But long story short, I got the appointment for probate judge and loved it. I'm telling you, it's one of the best jobs there is.
Well, it's a tough job. It ain't an easy job. I mean, I've talked, a lot of my friends are probate judges around the state. You got everything there. You got adoptions. You got everybody's on drugs now. You got to put them in, what do you call it? Mental places. And you got, there's a lot of contested land stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you wear 4 or 5 hats as a probate judge.
And in Covington County, we also sold licensed.
You had the tags. And you're like, oh my God, Ben, that was a tough job.
Yeah, and my greatest thing that happened, one of the best things that happened to me while I was the probate judge of Covington County was that I had an occasion to get to know the probate judge of Pike County, who at that time was Wes.
So y'all are good friends, aren't you?
Yeah, and Wes is just a fantastic person, and
y'all about the same age, aren't you?
I'm a little bit older than Wes.
But you won't
no, it's all right. We just were able to help each other.
He knew your Brundage connection.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Did he know how deep your family had been Republicans? He didn't know. I don't think he knew that, did he?
He's grew up in West Alabama.
Yeah, he didn't know.
He had been down in Troy working for the athletic department for a little while, and then when he became probate judge,
he got plucked out of there by Riley.
Yeah.
And put on that thing. Yeah. Nobody in Pike County knew who he was.
They did after he got through.
They'd been more familiar if they plucked you and put you in the Pike County probate judge.
I've thought about that a lot, and I held Wes to a high standard now because my mama and daddy lived in Pike County, and I made sure
he got to know them though, didn't he?
Yeah, and they love Wes, and they.
Jimmy Ramage would swear by Wes Allen. I was talking to Jimmy one time. I wasn't to stay in touch with politics like it was, and Wes was going to run for something, maybe Secretary of State. I said, or maybe when we're going to change from probate judge to the legislature. And I asked Jimmy, I said, he said, he's the best retail politician you have ever seen, Steve Flowers. He reminds me of a young you. Mm-hmm. He goes to everything, and I found out everybody in the county loves him. Mm-hmm. He's strong in Pike County. But back to your career, though, how many years you served as probate judge?
I was there for 7 years. And I ran one contested election while I got the appointment, had to run a contested election, won that election, and then there was an open seat on the circuit court. That was a contested election, and I ran for that and won that election.
I followed your career, but I didn't remember if you had an opponent or not. But let me ask you this question.
I got to tell you something about Jimmy Ramage real quick.
Okay, yeah.
I told you Jimmy was real instrumental in my life. Especially as it relates to the University of Alabama. And but the first time I ever cast a vote after I turned 18 years old, I didn't know how or couldn't figure out how to do an absentee ballot. So I left after class in Tuscaloosa one day and drove to Brundage, Alabama.
Vote for him for city man?
For mayor. Uh-huh. It wasn't his first term, but
yeah,
got voted in those old machines, where the curtain would come around and clack and all, and then I jumped back in the car and went back to Tuscaloosa that night. But he had been so good to me, I wanted to make sure I paid him.
I love Jimmy Ramage.
Yeah.
He loves your family. Because all of y'all were elected in the First Methodist Church, and he loved your mom and dad a lot too. But now back, how long were you on this? How many circuit judges are there in, and what county are you in with Covington and what?
Covington's a single seat judicial district. That's okay. We're so fortunate there. There are 2 of us.
Just 2 circuit judges?
Right. And the other circuit judge is Judge Lex Short, and he's, a really strong, good judge. I learned a lot from him. He's a friend.
Yeah.
He has the distinction of being the quarterback on the Andalusia High School's state champion. If you ask him, he'd say it was a national championship, but state championship football team back in the 1970 maybe 78, 79. They won 56 games in a row.
I love Andalusia. We play Andalusia and everything being in Troy growing up. But and I know a lot of people there. But so 7 years, and then Kay Alley plucked you out of the circuit judgeship in Covington, put you on this Court of Civil Appeals, and you're running for your full 6-year term unopposed this time.
Praise God, I'm unopposed. You know, the veteran politician Seth Hammett used to always say they're only.
We sat together in the house. You know that?
Is that right?
We were seatmates. Yeah.
He is attributed to Seth, who's a friend of mine as well, from Andalusia.
He and Nancy are some of my best friends.
They're just salt of the earth people. But Seth always says, you know, there's only 2 ways to run for office: unopposed and afraid. And until the other day, I was both of them. But today, after the qualifying closed on the Republican side, I can say I'm fortunate enough to be blessed, I think would be the right word, to have a chance to run. And really, Steve, I don't mind running for office. If I did, I wouldn't take the job. But it does allow me to take some of that energy and focus and put it on the job that the people have hired me to do, which is be a judge. And
now, who all's on that? Was you and Matt Friday and Moore? Y'all got a geographic balance. If you're from Pike and Covington County, Friday's from Shelby, Mary Wyndham's on that. No, she's on criminal.
Yeah.
Beth Kellum's on criminal. Now, who else is on civil? Chad Hanson is from Shelby too. She's Jefferson Shelby.
Right.
I like him a lot. He's been on the show.
Yeah.
Every one of your colleagues has been on my show.
Christy Edwards.
Christy Edwards from here in Montgomery.
Yeah. They are such a smart, just very conscientious. So they understand the seriousness of the job. And so I couldn't be more fortunate to be surrounded by 4 really strong judges who care about the people of Alabama, and I'm very fortunate there too. But I'll tell you, you mentioned your friends, and I've tried to tell this to the other judges and justices, but you know, I was in pretty good shape as the circuit judge of Covington County. I had 4 more years to go on my term, and I think one of the main things that made me want to come to Montgomery and be on one of the appellate courts was the quality of the people that I saw filling those positions. Sarah Stewart, Will Sellers, Brad Mendham, Greg Shaw.
Great, yeah.
I mean, they're just so, and it's almost like I looked at that and thought, if those people want to do that, it must be something,
Mendham
worthwhile.
had a similar background to you. He grew up in the Wiregrass. His daddy was a pharmacist down there, and you talking about people in Dothan, when he ran for that, he was a suspected circuit judge like you. And when he ran for that thing, that First Baptist Church in Dothan, they just loved him in that church.
I think Justice Mendham is, somebody I would want to be like if I grew up to be a judge.
Well, you've been a good one, and you've added a lot to this Court of Civil Appeals by Governor Ivey putting you on there, and you run unopposed this time. But our time's up. I want to have you back, though, Judge Bowden, and talk about the book about your ancestors who grew up down in Tennille in the southern part of Pike County, because I've got a lot of Pike County viewers. This goes all over the state now on YouTube and all, but part of my viewing is in Montgomery and Pike and the Wiregrass.
Well, this has been it's always a privilege to be on the Steve Flowers Show. It's a special privilege for me. I remember going to the State House and going and fetching coffee for folks when I was
probably for Seth.
When I was
did you tell Seth that you did that?
I don't know if we've talked about
Seth
that.
and I are very close. We sat together. Me and Seth and Jimmy Holly.
Yeah.
And Jack Venable.
Yeah.
And Pete Turner from Auburn. We sat together.
Well, it was a real, fantastic experience for me as a high schooler, and over the years, watching your career, and you turn into you're an author, and book about the governors, and it's just I don't know. My affiliation and what I would go ahead and say is friendship with you has meant a lot to me. So I know everybody wants to be on the Steve Flowers Show, but it means a lot to me because of our history.
I want to thank you for saying that, but I want to do it again and go into some of that stuff about Tennille and everything.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Well, I thank you for doing this for us with our guest. Tonight's been Judge Ben Bowden, the newest member of the Court of Civil Appeals. We thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune again next week for Alabama Politics.
This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.